We are Geekcentric, and you can be too. Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
What's up, geeks, and welcome back to the Geekcentric Podcast. My name is Justin, and today is the day. Finally, after all the hype, all the trailers, we have watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we are here to share our thoughts on this epic film. But before we get to that, if you're joining us for the first time, this is a weekly podcast covering the world of film, television, gaming, toys, collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for today's episode, we have my lovely co-hosts, the mother of all boxes, Nate Shelton, and you don't want to see his dark side, Mr. Kevin Hudson. What is up, boys?
Oh, no.
Nate's a player.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I'm the mother of all box. I like the fact that I'm a mother. That's kind of nice. I've always wanted to be a mother. But Kevin, I feel like a few people have seen your dark side and they've never returned.
Yeah, anybody who has seen it hasn't come back, that's for sure.
They're gone forever.
That's by choice.
How you guys doing? Feeling a little tired after committing like almost 6 hours of our lives to this?
Yeah, right.
Movie?
Like, because I watched the original one,
Yeah.
and I watched that 2 days ago, and then I watched this one, and I just felt like, wow, like I've dedicated so much time to this universe that I didn't think that I would enjoy, and obviously we'll get to that, or if I did or didn't, but oh my gosh, man, like it's an endeavor. It's an endeavor, even just with the Snyder cut, like just taking on those 4 hours and 2 minutes. It's just a lot. So yeah, I mean, well, we'll get to it.
Yeah, you're kind of rambling there. Anyways, as I see that you're so eager to discuss this movie, I think it is a great point to just move right in to our topic of the show. So, as I mentioned in the intro, today we're discussing Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, if you've been living under a rock, then allow me to give you a brief history lesson on how we got here. In March of 2017, while amidst production of the Justice League, Snyder had left production due to the loss of his daughter, Autumn, who had committed suicide. Understandably, Snyder left, and he had to focus on spending time with his family during this very tough time. Joss Whedon, who was hired to rewrite some of the scenes prior to Snyder's departure, assumed the role of director to meet the November deadline. However, Snyder still retained director credit when the film was released. Justice League was released on November 17th, 2017. Critics described it as a Frankenstein film, obviously the work of two different directors with competing visions. And after seeing Whedon's version in late 2017, Deborah Snyder and executive producer Christopher Nolan advised Snyder to never see that movie, knowing it would break his heart, being that it wasn't his true vision. What then came was a flurry of fan reactions taking to Twitter with the hashtag #ReleaseTheSnyderCut. Even cast members and people who had worked on the film were in support of Snyder releasing his own vision. After months of speculation, in March of 2019, there were rumblings of a Snyder Cut existing. Snyder fed into this by posting a photo of some tapes titled Zack Snyder's Justice League Director's Cut, and posting with it, "Is it real? Does it exist? Of course it does." This only fueled fans to take to Twitter once more, urging Warner to do something. It's been reported in February of 2020, Warner Media decided to move forward with the Snyder Cut after chairman Toby Emmerich acknowledged the hashtag #ReleaseTheSnyderCut movement, and he then reached out to Snyder. After lengthy discussions on reshoots and how to release this new cut, they finally reached an agreement to have the video hit their streaming platform, HBO Max. In May of 2020, upon announcing the release of Snyder Cut, Snyder acknowledged that the realization of this was 100% due to the fans' efforts, while others criticized Warner for giving in to fans after an excessive amount of online bullying, harassment, and even trolling. But nonetheless, it worked, thanks to the resilience of fans and a director's promise to his vision and to his daughter. Now, as preparation, we all watched the original Justice League from 2017, plus the new 4-hour epic titled Zack Snyder's Justice League. So are you guys ready to start talking about this or what?
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's go.
All right.
Now, before we get into our spoiler portion of discussion, I would love for you guys to share your high-level thoughts of the film with no specifics about characters or events, as we'll dive into that as we get into the spoiler portion of our conversation. But please feel free to reference the original cut as a point of discussion. So who would like to start? Maybe I'll start with Kev. Hot take Kev. Let's go, Kev.
Yeah, I think if I were to say one thing about the Snyder cut versus the Whedon cut, it's a far better film. I'm still not sure if that means it's a good movie. I think we'll sort of break that down, and I'll get to that sort of revelation by the end. But no, you could see one movie was a passion project that was the culmination of years and years of work. You know, the part of a 5-story arc where he's sort of spent time with these characters and really wanted to flesh them out as characters, not just on their own, but in a larger universe, versus a film made by a bitter, angry director who had no real passion for the movie, and it shows. That 2017 movie is a fluffy piece of junk with no heart, no soul. There's no passion behind the characters. And so that was probably the most glaring difference in the movie. And while it was way too long, 4 hours is too long for any movie, it didn't feel like 4 hours. And so I think that is also a testament to the movie working much better than its predecessor did. So yeah, I think it was just a far better experience and a far better movie at the end of the day.
Yeah, I didn't think it could be done. I really didn't think I was gonna like either version of the film. And to be honest with you, the Whedon cut, I liked the ideas that were set up. I liked the portrayals of the characters, but I didn't like how it was executed. I didn't like the overall outcome. So when it came to this movie, and I'm hearing rumblings of like, oh, it does all that so much better, I was like, okay, my ears perked up, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to sit down for 4 hours here, and I thought it was going to be exhausting, and it wasn't. It wasn't. Like, I think the last 30 minutes of the film was probably where I started to feel a little bit of that fatigue. I kind of was checking out my watch, like, okay, how much time is actually left here after the 5th or 8th last scene. So, I probably won't watch it again anytime soon, but I did enjoy it quite a bit, and it made up for the original's, I think, lack of patience when it comes to the plot, when it comes to establishing characters. I think it was a way better ending. The ending was it was very confusing. I still think it was a better ending than the original. The only thing that I felt was really kind of disappointing for me, which, again, I'm surprised by, is the fact that we're not really going to get to see some of the various outcomes that would come from these endings. So, and again, we'll talk about all that. We got some really great moments that we're going to dig into. Overall, I am pleasantly surprised with how the whole thing came together.
Nate, I love how you mentioned that it just all the false endings. It was very like Lord of the Rings. Yes. In that manner, but instead of being at the end of 12 hours and 3 movies and this epic journey, it was what was supposed to be the end of the first part of 3 movies without that sort of lead up to it. So it did feel a bit like, okay, let's just get there. Even though they did serve a purpose, it was a bit like, let's go, wrap it up now.
All right,
we're at 4 hours. We're done.
Yeah. Justin, what are your overall thoughts?
I actually really loved this movie. I thought I hated the Joss Whedon version. I thought it was rushed. It was, it just didn't feel like it. To Kevin's point, it had any heart. It didn't have any sort of commitment to its characters. It was just like, let's get this done. Let's get this out of the way. Nobody wants to see this. So it was treated with that respect. I feel like this movie definitely treated the characters with a lot more respect, treated the story with a lot more respect. Yes, it's 4 hours, but I honestly didn't mind the time. I think the way that they structured it worked really, really well. He should celebrate because he achieved it. He got his vision done, and yes, it's long, but it was tons of fun. And Yeah, I am. I was pleasantly surprised because I literally hated this movie, and I haven't liked very much of the Zack Snyder DCU, but I have to say, like, for this 4-hour epic, it was pretty interesting to just get a little bit more resolve and a little bit more conclusion. And even just from, we watched Justice League, yes, but I watched Batman versus Superman as well. And thinking about that really more of as a parallel, like as a continuation from that to this version of Justice League, there's a lot of interesting sort of threads in terms of the character development and them coming together and stuff like that I really appreciated. So I think it was a good way for him to, if he is closing off his Snyderverse, then, it was a fond farewell. It was really well done. So
some strong words. You used the LOVE.
Dude,
word.
I honestly, I was surprised.
Whoa.
I'm honestly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. Like I literally, because will be the first to say I was very, very, very reluctant to think that this movie was actually going to be good. But, again, adding 2 hours, shifting the focus, and really it shows you the power of editing. Like the power of editing is everything. Like obviously he's added in more scenes, but like how, as we discussed, how scenes might have changed from the original to this. It's so incredible to see.
Well, and I just wonder, my biggest concern about evaluating the Snyder Cut is, and I think it was important to do, but it's that we're comparing it directly to the Whedon, the Justice League, if you want to call it that.
Oh no!
And so it's like, was this a really good movie, or was it simply a superior movie to a bad movie that I didn't like? Did I actually like it, or did I just like it more than a movie that I hated? So so I'm wondering, because you watched them within a very close amount of time and have gone on record a lot, even just now, about how much you hate the Joss Whedon version. Do you think that has anything to do with why you enjoyed this so much?
Yeah, I think it did. I think if this was the original version that came out when it did, I probably would be like, wow, 4 hours. But I would at least still appreciate, I think the character piece focus, right, that they added to it, or that's implemented in it. There are some things that just feel like unnecessary to have included, but I just feel like it is what it is in terms of it being a sort of ending to his sort of story. It felt like that, and maybe he was trying to plant some seeds, but I don't know. It hard to say what's going to actually come of it. So I think it's a good point to just get into spoilers, because we've now given everyone our brief overview without spoiling anything. So let's get into full spoilers, guys. Now, for the first question, I have a whole bunch of questions here, 6 to be exact. But for our first question, I think it might be best to do like kind of like a roundtable discussion so we can kind of share our thoughts. And this question is, what stood out to you guys as being the most different between the Whedon version and the Snyder Cut version? Nathaniel, let's start with you.
Well, Justin, I love that you're saying you have 6 questions, not 5, as it should be. I think, honestly, like, due to the length, I think, it's nice to see that things were added. It's funny because I went into watching the Whedon cut with the knowledge of the Zack Snyder cut. So for me, going into the Whedon cut, I was kind of maybe I was a little more attuned to recognizing when things were cut out. But just like one moment that just extremely bugged me watching the original one is seeing the third mother box get taken, and you see Steppenwolf come down, and you see this tube, and they look over, and then it's just a black dot going back up the tube, and you're like, what? You're just not going to do anything? Like, what? What's wrong with you?
That. I hated that. It was so
awful.
Dumb.
Awful. Or like even the moment with and I know we're talking about the Snyder version, but just the moment where we've got Barry Allen and Victor digging Superman's grave, and they're like giving each other's origin stories, and then he's like, yeah, that's the abridged version or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it is the abridged version. That's what this whole movie is. The abridged version. Right? So it was just absolutely...
Look, you've touched on it. The biggest difference between the two movies is the character development for the two new characters.
Sure, yeah.
And I mean, I guess Aquaman at this point would have been a new character as well, right? And so he kind of, if you don't consider that we got that Aquaman movie in between these. So you do feel a bit more familiar with him going into the Snyder movie. But Barry and Victor, like those two characters are so just, here they are. Now they're part of the Justice League in the Whedon. Like, so what I did was when I was watching, I made this flow chart and I literally wrote down each scene as it happened for both movies. And I sort of, compared them. And what Whedon did in 24 minutes about is introduce Cyborg. He introduces Barry Allen. He gives us the entire plot. Now, in Snyder's version, he takes an hour and 10 minutes to do this. And we get the full flushed out story of Victor. Like, Victor is so integral to this movie. And because we have his backstory and learn so much about him, he's meaningful in the Snyder movie.
Absolutely.
And Barry, we sort of, see a bit more of his character to understand his relationship with his father and his motivations and what he's out to try and do. And it's just, that makes all the difference in the movie, I think, was the development of those two characters to make them seem significant and important to the overall
100%.
story.
I think that is the most glaring, obvious, other than the runtime of the movie, but the most glaring difference is how two integral characters to the Justice League in Whedon's version were just so rushed into the group, whereas here we actually get to learn more about them. They have their origin story to a certain degree, at least for Cyborg, in this film, for us to really understand how he's integral to the overall plot.
I'm sure we're going to get to character moments and things like that going forward. There, but I did want to just quickly talk a little bit about the visuals. I know Zack Snyder is so much about his visuals, and I feel like this movie just did such a good job at, I think there were clear moments that were set up as like what looked like they could have been in comic books. And we got a lot more of those in this cut. I also think the coloration of the film, I think, is desaturated, which again is more in line with what we've gotten from Snyder in the past. I think the poppy bright colors that were meant to emulate the MCU in the Whedon version are gone, and it adjusts the look of the film, tonally, and I think it sets it in the right direction.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That was the one thing that stood out, was the color grade. You see it in especially in the scenes like with Wonder Woman when she's saving those hostages. It was very yellow and warm, and this one was cold and had more grain to it. But that was a constant theme. Like even in the sort of nuclear base, you see that it's not necessarily vibrant red all the time, like firing everywhere. Like it was a little bit more muted. Another thing was the score. I thought the score was actually a lot better this time around.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I didn't like Danny Elfman's score.
Some of those songs, like the scene with Aquaman on the dock, and like even like Barry's introduction's really cool. I'm sure we'll talk about that later on. But like that sing-songy operatic music and like the Aquaman scene and they're singing on the beach and stuff. Like some of the music was just like, oh man, that was one of my least favorite part. The music was so sappy and I hated the music and
I didn't like
song
Danny
choices
Elfman's
throughout
tracks.
it.
I thought he was a little too boppity boopity because like Danny Elfman has a very unique sort of sound and it just didn't match well, I think, with that sort of that world. I appreciated the fact that they brought back Junkie XL, also known as Tom. I think he's like Swedish, but Hulkenborg.
Yeah.
He's done
something
other
like
films, and actually, like he had done most of the score in 2017, but then was yanked and replaced by Danny Elfman.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. His score wouldn't have worked with Whedon's movie, so I completely understand why they would have changed that up.
Well, and speaking of changing things up from a standpoint of tone, I mean, the movie's rated R, right? So, a lot more swearing, a lot more bleeding blood. And I think it was fantastic to see characters actually take advantage of the fact that they're not owned by the mouse and they can say and do what they want. And I appreciated that so much, just given that, again, for this movie, it's supposed to be more serious. Like I get that there's some great comedic elements in it, but they definitely toned that down, right? Like we don't have that really sort of kitschy dialogue. Like in the original when Lois says to Clark, "You smell good."
Oh, that's
and
the
he
worst.
Says, right?
Did I not before?
Did I not before?
I'm so glad you spoke. Like, that's such a better line there.
Way better. or like Superman and the fight where he says to Bruce, like, "Do you bleed?" Right?
Yeah.
And then you've got Bruce saying, "Yep, definitely something bleeding." I'm like, that's just so not Batman. And especially in that moment to talk like that didn't make sense. So I'm just so happy what they did with the dialogue.
The
in
humor,
this movie.
I think, is another thing to really point out. Like, it felt the humor that was left, that carried over from Joss Whedon's into this one, seemed a little bit more appropriately placed versus the add-on scenes, to your point, with Batman. Oh, yep, definitely some internal bleeding. Like, just like it didn't fit. And I appreciated the fact that they kept some humor, but it was more natural and it felt more authentic.
One thing that stood up, I know we're gonna talk about like specific scenes, but this takes place over several scenes, so it's more of a theme in the movie versus a specific scene. But one thing I loved was how they changed the whole narrative of bringing Superman back. Like in the Justice League, it's Bruce has this master plan. He somehow knows that the Mother Box can do it, and he's confident it's going to work, and he's got a backup plan in Lois in case Superman is bad, and everyone's, whereas in this one, they all come up with the plan together. Cyborg, knowing the Mother Box, says we can use this to bring him back. Like, it's just such an integral part of the movie, and I think it works so much better being elongated a bit and having the characters react differently to it in the Snyder version that I just preferred it so much better in this one, where sure, Aquaman's being a bit skeptical, but they're not all like instantly, he's going to come back and be bad. Like, why would that be their first thought, And so, and because that ruins it when he does come back and is confused and angry and does sort of act like bad Superman, you know what I mean? Like, when they say he's going to come back and be bad and then he does, it's not a surprise, and it doesn't work as a moment. So I just think it was handled so much better in the Snyder
That to me
cut.
was like, again, another element that they took their time with in the Snyder cut, but in 100% in the Whedonverse, or if you're the Whedon League, whatever you want to call it, it's rushed, and it's one of the many things in that movie that feel very rushed. But again, appreciating the fact of how the characters were able to interact and figure out a plan to deal with that felt very much more organic, right?
Now, the only thing I will say, because we're talking differences here and we're talking what we loved, and I will say there was actually some, I would say there's two little things from the Whedon cut, very little things, little character interaction moments that I kind of missed in this one. One of them that I want to call out is the scene where I think I don't know what moment it is in the Whedon cut, but you see Arthur Curry and he's just laying it out all on the line, and he's just telling everyone, he's being very heartfelt, and he looks at Diana and he's like, "You're so gorgeous, like holy," and then he just looks down and the lasso's on him, and I was just like, that was actually like really, really funny, and I think it made his character. I think they made him a little more brooding in this one, which, fine, that's cool. Like, we've got a whole other movie to explore him, so I'm not as worried. The only other little thing, though, that I would say that I really loved, and it's thankfully they still kept it in the very last moment, or one of the last 7 moments of the movie, is the moment where Barry Allen and Victor finally fist bump. And so in the original one, while they're digging the grave, there's that kind of awkward moment where he wants to like fist bump him and he kind of gets turned down. So then to see that at the end as like, look how far their characters have grown, like, okay, I'll fist bump you. Like, I don't know, just those little things. Were there any other Whedon things that you wanted back in the Snyder cut?
Yeah, so I was going to mention this a little later on, but this sounds like a good time to do it. I miss a bit of the Flash's vulnerability, especially in that first scene. I really liked how here's this guy who's never been in a fight, and now all of a sudden he's going against this interdimensional being. I liked that he was afraid. And there was that moment with Batman sort of saying, just take it one step at a time, just save one person. And it was almost like that mentor-mentoree sort of relationship. And instead, Barry's just like amped to go. He's in there. He's jumping in. He's twirling around these aliens and stuff. And I didn't like how goofy he was in the Whedon movie the whole time. But that one little moment just before his first interaction with a bad guy, I liked that sort of vulnerability. So I thought that taking that out sort of hurt a bit.
This actually is a good segue into our next question, which is about characters. So, one comment that seems to be fairly consistent when discussing this new Snyder cut, and especially from critics, is its ability to deliver more depth to its characters. Now, we've discussed a little bit of this, so we can dive in a little bit more. But with that in mind, were there characters that were a highlight for you? Just using what you said, Kev, really quickly to talk about Flash. I enjoyed that this time he wasn't like scared. I enjoyed that he kind of went in, because that is kind of Flash. Like, Flash is a little cocky, right? So, and I feel like they kind of got a little bit more of that, but he didn't feel very comfortable going up against Superman, which is like Superman, his hero, as he describes. So I appreciated the fact that he wasn't as like scared as he was in the original. But he still had that sort of that persona of like being confident and just sure of himself to a certain degree.
Again, I didn't like where, he's like, ew, bugs, and he gets covered in the goop and stuff. I'm glad that crap was out of there. But just that one moment before the big fight, like, again, he's not a grizzled 30-year veteran like Batman. He's not an Amazonian goddess like Wonder Woman. He's not the king of the ocean like Aqua Man. He's not a do-it-all robot like Victor. He's just a dude who can run fast. And so, he's used to pushing people and doing little things like that. So again, when you're faced with this interdimensional being who's here to take over the world, it'd be a little bit more relatable for a character to have some sort of fear in that situation. So I just missed that little bit. Not the whole movie. He could have learned from that one scene and gotten more cocky and confident as the movie went on. But just that one little bit would have been nice.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of sort of little moments, I think one thing that I really dug about the Amazons, and specifically the Queen of the Amazons, if we're not necessarily going to get right into more main characters, just really quickly, there's a very subtle moment that I want to call out where she sees the entire Colosseum. She runs out, right, and they lock it down, and then it has an amazing, like, I think also the cinematography in this version of the movie, so good. But the moment where the Colosseum falls into the water, and she just doesn't, in the original one, she just rides off and doesn't look back. And in this one, she pauses, she looks down, she watches the Colosseum fall. You can tell that she's saddened that she just lost so many daughters of the Themyscira, and it just makes so much more sense for her to take that moment, being who she is and how proud she is. And in that moment, yeah, maybe she's proud of what's happening. Maybe she's also feeling great heartache. Like, so much more happening. And I get it. The movie's 4 hours long, so they can take those times with these ancillary characters. But I loved it. I love that.
No, that whole scene is significantly better, just because, in the Whedon version, Steppenwolf comes down. She grabs the box. She goes, knock the Colosseum down. She runs out. All that happens is a door closes. She rides off. Steppenwolf's busting through 8 seconds later, so it was pointless. Whereas in this one, she sees what's happening. She almost pauses with fear and like knowing that all of her family is about to die here. And it's another Amazonian who says, "You've got to get out of here. We'll distract him. You go." You know what I mean? And she reluctantly goes, and then they knock it down. And then instead of, just the door closing that Steppenwolf literally just walks through, it crumbles to the ocean. And it seems like it's a measure that might actually work, So ultimately it doesn't, but it's so much better for that to have been the sacrifice that they all make, is that it's something that could potentially actually stop him rather than just slow him down for 8 seconds.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they handled that specific scene, and it's just a little bit of change, but it's so significant to the character, to the events, right? Because the thing didn't collapse like you were saying in the original Whedon version, but here it does, and she's thinking of those people, so it just resonates a little bit more. We've talked obviously about the hyper focus that this film has on characters like Cyborg and Flash.
Yeah.
And really giving them like why they're part of the Justice League versus just being thrown in the original version. But I gotta say, Wonder Woman, I actually really enjoyed her role in this movie. Like, I honestly, I really thought that she was highlighted as almost a sub leader. Like while Batman seems to be like the one who's trying to bring everyone together, it almost seems like she's the born leader that really knows how to do this. You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of like, I know all these people out there. I just need to get them all together. But it almost like she stood out as the leader in some instances.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, they did sort of elevate her. But at the same time, they kept that aspect, but they also sort of fleshed out the entire group to the point where it felt like, I think you'd mentioned that they all come up with the idea together, right? Like they all have a part to play so much more, where I feel like the first one was very Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman focused. This time around, it really felt like the entire group was moving forward, not just those 3 or 2 characters. Dude, Cyborg was the heart of the film in this version. Right. And I think he was always meant to be the heart of the film. So to see how terribly he got shafted in the Whedon cut versus this one, seeing the backstory with his mom bookended by the storyline with his dad, it was so well done. And I feel like he had so much more to do in this film. Whereas in the original, he would just stand in front of a piece of technology until the next thing happened. And that was his character. And it was terrible. And so, like, again, like I liked so much his portrayal. Like, I'm a huge, if anything, even though I don't know too much about Cyborg from the standard DC universe, Teen Titans, I love Teen Titans, the animated series. And so to see Cyborg in that and to see some of the things he goes through in that series, now to see it realized in this, in obviously a much more adult, much more dark way, it was just so nice. It was so good to see.
Yeah, like after the Whedon version, I could barely remember the name Cyborg, let alone Victor. And in this one, you get to know him and you get to care about him and you're rooting for him. And, the fact that, his strained relationship with his father comes into play such a huge role in sort of leading up to the climax of the movie. And when his father sacrifices himself to help the team and help their mission go forward, it means something. And I mean, that's obviously just non-existent in the Whedon version, right? Instead of that whole really cool moment, we get that dot from the portal, like you mentioned earlier, where it's just doom, get the mother box gone. Like there's that whole section there, and it makes the whole thing make sense. After the Snyder version, it's like, I would actually go see a Cyborg movie.
Interesting.
Yes.
Whereas after the Whedon one, it'd be like, what is the point? This guy's useless. Who is he? Who cares? So that's a huge difference.
Please. Awesome. Well, you mentioned Steppenwolf, and in the original cut, he was a villain that not many people liked. Many saw him as very one-dimensional with very confusing motivations. It wasn't really clear what his motivation was and whatnot. Even the threat with the mother boxes seemed a little loose to follow. But this time around, what did you guys think of Steppenwolf and the other villains that were portrayed, as well as these weapons known as the mother boxes? Did you understand them more?
I think in the original movie, there was that scene where Diana and Bruce are walking along the riverside or something, and it's like, it's the conversation of exposition, and it's just like, and I think,
well, it's literally called, people are calling it the history lesson in either movie,
but the way they did it in this one was just so much more helpful. It was so much more well explained, and I think it was just, it actually made me understand it felt like the Lord of the Rings, at the beginning of the movie when she's talking about the One Ring, right? And I was just like, that to me was such a big difference, and it really made the movie actually make more sense.
Well, yeah, and again, instead of pigeonhole doing it in 20 minutes while also introducing Barry and Cyborg, the sort of explanation about what's going on and the explanation about the whole mother boxes and Steppenwolf's motivations, it's spread out over an hour and a half. Again, obviously he has the benefit of time here, but it serves, he uses it so well to spread out that explanation and just make everything make more sense, including Steppenwolf's motivations. It's just so much better.
I think that, like, to your point, Nate, the exposition in the original cut felt very like, here's your information. What was nice about the exposition in this one, it was like, she was learning from history as well. Like she didn't have all the answers. But I thought the history lesson was effective. like, yeah, his motivations were pretty clear. And there's just like, of all the lingering questions, the one that I have is, what did he do to Darkseid that pissed him off, right? Because I don't know if they've really explained that.
I kind of wanted a little bit more explanation to your point, Justin, of Darkseid's, part in this entire thing. I think that could have been something, though, that maybe Zack was originally setting up for the second or third movie, right?
Yeah, I certainly think we would have seen a bit more backstory on Darkseid as we went through the trilogy. I think the idea, though, is that Steppenwolf at one point betrayed Darkseid, and I don't even know if it's important as to how, just that he did, and as his punishment, he had to take over 50,000 planets. And his main goal was to take over the one that Darkseid failed to do previously, right? In the Age of Heroes, all those thousands of years ago. And that is just, and like you can sort of feel his desire to get back on the good side of his master, and like that's his motivation. And it's a clear, understandable motivation. He wants to do well for Darkseid here versus, I want to serve the mother. And is he talking about the mother boxes and just how
does he have a mom?
And just I love how he was just plain out defeated here. He was outmatched and he was beaten by these incredible heroes versus, because I think in the first one his weakness, the flying creatures could smell fear, and so he was afraid, and then they just took him away, and it was that was so lame and not satisfying at all for viewers. So like this just, it worked on so many different levels, so much better.
Well, that brings us to question number 4, guys, and that's about any outstanding scenes from this film. And you can think in relation to how scenes were previously cut. If I can, I would love to kick this one off. And I think the biggest standout for me as being one of like my favorite scenes was the opening. I hated the opening of the original Joss Whedon cut with,
oh my gosh, with the vloggers.
Hold on. So like with the Superman vlogger with Batman tracking down this criminal and using him as bait to find a parademon. Like
somehow he already knows they exist and everything. It was
even the guy he tracked down knew about the plot line of the movie.
That burglar knew a lot about those guys.
Like, to the point, like the prologue of this movie, picks up right with Superman's death, and I love this sort of connotation of a shock that was felt around the world, and that erupting and creating awareness in the mother boxes. I think I loved how they created that connection as to why this new threat was coming. So I feel like that's
yes. Now that the Kryptonian is gone, the planet is ripe for the taking.
They hinted at that in Joss Whedon's by just a line, but I liked here how they flushed it out and connected it back to a narrative element that was very crucial. So, but to your point, Kevin, I think in the original there was like a music intro that showcased, everyone mourning Superman and even Lois Lane going to the grave, and that was all drawn over like an hour or more, right? Like you saw those in different ways in different scenes to see where they were. But I appreciated that. I actually liked how they connected the current threat with the with something that had happened in the previous films.
Well, and I know you're talking more the opening of the film versus the very first scene of the movie, but if we're talking about those just very first opening scenes, I mean, the biggest mistake Whedon could have made was to have Superman be the first thing you see in his movie with that janky ass upper lip missing mustache. Like, because sitting in the theater and you'd heard about the mustache, and then all of a sudden that's the first thing you see, and it's like, oh boy, this is going to be a rough 2 hours, man. And I felt the exact same way watching that movie again, in preparation for this. And so, I mean, obviously there was no janky mustache at any point in the Snyder cut, but again, like that just very first shot on the Whedon one, it kills the whole movie dead in its tracks 30 seconds in. It's crazy.
And I also, like, Justin, you called out Wonder Woman and how much you liked her in this movie. The intro with Wonder Woman, honestly, is probably the best Wonder Woman I've ever seen on screen. And I know it was in the Whedon cut as well, but I think the little changes that they made, even the moment where she's just standing on the statue over top, and I'm just like, I'm like, this looks like I'm about to play this video game right now. Like, this looks so cool. And it just elevated that scene even higher for me. And the way she moves and everything, she uses everything in her arsenal to take out these terrorists. It's just that one scene for me, that's Wonder Woman in live action. And that's what I want.
Well, speaking of, the Amazonians,
yes.
Again, I don't want to touch on it because I know we've talked a lot about it, but in terms of a scene, even after now we've got the destruction of the temple and we're back on Paradise Island with the Amazons. That actually kind of sounds like an adult film, but we're back on Themyscirus, I believe it's called.
Themyscira.
Themyscira, okay. But just the action with Steppenwolf is so much better here. Like it was corny in the Whedon version, but here he's a badass and he's mowing these warriors down, and it's violent and it's visceral and that was just such an improvement on all of that. So as a scene that stood out, again, that whole 10-minute sequence was just far superior in this movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I think another great scene to talk about is the introduction of Flash. Or as Barry Allen.
Yes.
I think that was absolutely outstanding. Like, that wasn't in the original. None of that was. And,
Not at all.
No.
So
even with
good.
all the slow-mo and stuff like that, like, it was really well done. It was funny.
I mean, minus one little weird moment with a hot dog and that weird song
Kevin,
playing. I don't know.
Amazing.
It was a bit creepy. It was a bit creepy.
No. Here's the deal. I love that it started off. You're like, oh, he's gonna brush her hair out of the way, and then he reaches over for a hot dog.
Sure. I was getting very uncomfortable until the hot dog came in.
I loved it, and I love how he saves her, and then he comes back, and he's just like, so I got the job, and he's like feeding the hot dog to the. I was just like that whole moment was so enjoyable. I didn't think Barry Allen could be made more enjoyable, and they absolutely did. Like, he absolutely was.
Now, Just, you mentioned slow motion. I will say there was maybe a bit too much slow motion in this movie. Somebody clocked it, 10% of the movie is in slow motion.
Really?
That's 24 minutes of slow motion. It got a bit excessive. And they almost maybe overplayed the card when you see that in the final battle, it's so integral to everything that, like, I know they have to set that up, but maybe they overdid the slow motion with all the characters a bit much when you're literally looking at 10% of your movie being filmed in slow motion.
Speaking of The Flash and continuing with scenes, what do you guys think of him reversing time? There was 2 instances where he does it, obviously in the final battle, and then did you catch the first time he reverses time?
Well, I thought he was afraid. He refused to do it until that end.
Well, he
scene,
did it.
He does do it faster than light.
Do it when the mother box is about to hit. He missed that time because he was delayed, so it slowly pans back and he touches it.
Okay.
So it's just a little glimpse, and then you get that.
Oh, of what he can do. Okay.
And then he does go full-fledged and says, okay, I'm gonna. I thought it was kind of cool to introduce like that sort of that power and really hint at where Flash is going.
I kind of just wish that he did reverse time all the way back to that girl, though. Because honestly, I just thought that was going to be more of a relationship in the movie. Because I'm pretty sure she's supposed to be the character of Iris West or something from the comic
they're
books.
They're setting that up for the movie.
But is there going to be one? Are we going to get it?
I believe they are still doing the Flash movie.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's in production, yeah. And she is going to be a character. So I think it's integral.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence. It's always... now that he knows he can do this, can anything ever go wrong? As long as he's alive, nothing should ever go wrong because he can always just run really fast and reverse time to when, and I know that like the whole DC movie universe stretching way, way back in the day goes to the very first Superman movie where he literally flies around the earth fast enough to reverse time. So if that's just a DC thing, I'll accept it, but I'm always afraid when you open these Pandora's boxes of, being able to get out of problems that why wouldn't you just use it every time?
That's why I think it's something he doesn't want to use, right? Like he is altering time and it's just like, it's a life or death, everyone's dying. Like you literally saw everyone exploded, and as he's reversing time, like you see cyborgs, like
they all
like skeleton come back
together.
To life.
Yeah,
like it's pretty crazy, right? So it was cool, but I also think though that to use this power is in really special situations, like life or death situations, which is why he was hesitant to do it.
Well, I mean, if there's a consequence to it, You know what I mean? Then that's how you sort of control that.
Well, and I would love to see in the Flash movie, and again, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but I would love to see, like, if maybe there's a storyline where he does start to be able to really understand how to use that power, but he uses it so much that he alters something and can't change it back, and it's like a horrible thing that really affects him. So then it puts even more of that sort of fear into him to say, like, this isn't something you can just do all the time. I think that would be really cool, and it would fit his character, right, with him sort of becoming more mature.
And I feel like, though, that's going to be very centric to the Flash storyline, where he's going back in time to fix something. Like, he's breaking the laws of time to fix something that's happened.
Well, and I know we want to talk about it in a bit here, but I also think it was going to play a huge role in the next two movies of the Snyderverse trilogy, from what I've read about what the plans were for that. But I'll save that part for that.
What about the epilogue, guys? Like, I honestly, like, I know this will kind of tie into another question that we're going to talk about. I'm going to ask you guys later. That'll be very straightforward. But, like, what did you think of, like, some of these ideas that were planted in this epilogue for future movies?
I mean, it's again, I mentioned it at the top. It was a bit disappointing. It was a bit disappointing to see all these, like, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It was cool to see this stuff happen. But at the same time, I was just like, well, I don't know if this is really going to go anywhere. And then I just got to be honest. I know that last moment was supposed to be really confusing as to what was going on with, you know, and we'll talk about, like, the Joker and everything. But, like, I was just like, it felt unnecessary, especially the fact that it was a dream thing. Like, it was a dream thing is probably one of the worst things you can do. And unless they're trying to say it was a premonition.
That's exactly what it was.
Oh, okay.
Right? Batman has it in Batman versus Superman.
Right.
And then we see it here, and it's all setting up. That was literally going to be in the second movie.
Wow.
And then the third movie was going to be basically them going back in time to a certain point that caused all of that stuff to happen, which is very endgamey, if you ask me.
It also sounds like Nate's version of a Fantastic Four movie. So, very, very all over the place. No, I think what was interesting too is that in this one, it wasn't just Wayne, obviously, at the end, that epilogue with that premonition, but Cyborg had a premonition, right? And this is more tethered to them both having the same premonition of the course of events. I thought it was interesting to fuse the idea that there was an alliance between two enemies. I really want to see that played out. I would love to see that played out.
Could we just do it with a different Joker?
Yeah, well, I didn't mind him. I didn't mind him.
You didn't mind Jim Carrey? His Jim Carrey impression?
I liked
righty
it.
Then, Batman. Oh, man.
I liked it. I loved the line delivery, like, truce, Bruce. I was that's great. Like, to me, that's very Joker.
This
I
does
don't
tie
know.
into the next question. Do you want to see more from the Snyderverse? Whether Snyder is involved, do you want to see this story played out? Would you like to see more, regardless of what you've read online of it actually happening? Would you? Do you want to?
I mean, take this answer however you want. I don't think I want more Snyderverse necessarily, but I want more of these characters, and I want more of the actors that portray them. Portraying these characters. I want a Flash movie. I want a Cyborg movie. And I don't think a Cyborg movie, unfortunately, is going to happen for a while. And even with this Cyborg, like, do you think the success of having this, this movie is having, do you think it's going to convince everybody to get back on board? Are we going to get?
That's kind of what my next small question attached to this was going to be. Like, do you think that this could change the way that, people are going to look? Like, I had said that I would love to see a Batman Joker, Ben Affleck, directed sort of thing that he wanted to do. Could that come to something like HBO Max? Could we see more in that world? I don't know. I'd love to, but I don't know. How about you guys?
But with Matt Reeves, the Batman and the live action series that they're going down, like,
Multiverse,
it seems like they're kind of like, we're already on a boat out of the way. We're doing something different already. I
think there's room.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's been proven that the best person to handle this version of the DC characters that we have here is by Snyder. Whether it's the best version you could get of the characters in general, I hope not, because I really do hope that we see better iterations and movies down the line from these DC characters. But I think this specific universe that's being created, I don't think anybody should touch it except for Zack Snyder. And I don't know if he's on board, and I don't know if the studios are wanting to, after the train wreck that this has all been, you know what I mean? Like, are they even going to recoup the $70 million additional dollars that they threw in to make this director's cut happen? But knowing what I do about where the plans for the story have gone, now that I know, I don't necessarily want to see it because it's already kind of been spoiled. Like, he's gone on record now, Zack Snyder, and said, this is what 2 would have been, this is what 3 would have been. And so now that I know that, that's too spoilery for me. I don't necessarily want to see. I think had this been the original version and that was the ending and that's what they set up, I think I would have been like, yeah, I'll go watch another movie. Like, after the first version, after Whedon's version, I was like, this sucks. I don't need any more of this crap, right? Whereas if this was the only version we ever got, I think I would have sat in the theater as the credits rolled and gone, I'm intrigued to see where this goes next, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's just a shame that everything's happened the way it's happened that I just don't think there's any going back. There's no Flash running fast enough to put us back in a place where it could all be something I want to see play out.
Fair. Well, talking about playing out, what did you guys think of the structure, breaking up part 1, 2?
I thought it was interesting how it was broken up. I feel like it was like every big moment, after every big moment ended, or there would be like, they would say something like, well, let's go get him. And you hear the music rise. I was like, are we going to cut away to commercial? Are the credits going to roll here? Like, and then I'm going to go to the next movie?
More than anything.
Yeah. And it I don't know. I feel like as a 4-hour experience, I guess what you could say is by having those moments, having those titles pop up, those could have been good moments to say to maybe more casual audiences to say, hey, you know what? This is a 4-hour thing. So if you want to pause it here, you want to come back later in the day, or you want to come back another day, you can totally do that. And it won't make the movie feel disjointed, right? Where you're not going to stop in a point where you're going to like come back to it and be like, oh, I got to rewind 15 minutes because I don't know what's going on. This is very much, I felt they were really well placed.
That's a really good point. That actually makes them make sense for me now, because I mean, if you just took those out and just played the movie, so you got rid of the 10 seconds that each title card was on the screen and just rolled the movie straight, it wouldn't have made a difference, I don't think. I like your idea, Nate, where it is breaking it up into digestible sections for somebody who doesn't want to just sit there for the 4 hours. But otherwise, I don't think they served much of a purpose for me.
I personally, I think that 100% that's what it was for, was so that it was digestible on a streaming platform, versus obviously if you went and saw this in theaters, it will probably may not have those things. It would just run, from start to finish. That being said, if they did release this in IMAX and did a re-release of this on screen, would you guys go check it out?
I mean, if they did, I would, honestly, I kind of like the idea of the old school, okay, we're going to take an intermission, go get some popcorn, go get a bathroom break in. Yeah.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Honestly, like, I kind of would enjoy that. And yes, if this was in IMAX, are you kidding me? Again, like, we talked about the cinematography in the movie, that again, the visuals that Zack has implemented, the comic book stylings that he's put in, just absolutely, this would look phenomenal on IMAX.
Well, yeah, so, attaching this as well to kind of like the idea of the rollout and the structure, a big pain point for me was this 4:3 ratio, this square ratio that I was like, oh God, how is this going to work? And you know what? It didn't actually bother me. It didn't bother me. It actually worked to a certain degree.
Nice.
With the sort of verticality. I could see how that would work. And it just made me really want to see it on IMAX, like filling that screen to really get a sense of what that would look like. So
yeah, I didn't even notice the aspect ratio. I mean, I don't notice these things. I'm not, but it was talked about so much going into it. And then I watched this 4-hour movie and then it ends and I was like, Oh yeah, it was different, wasn't it? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, could have fooled me. Like, if you hadn't told me that it was different, I would have been like, no, it wasn't. And it literally would go back just to confirm.
Yeah. Oh, well, guys, I think we should get into our final thoughts. We've discussed what we've liked, what we didn't like. So let's collect our thoughts and summarize our overall review and score, which will be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 mother boxes. Mother? You know what? Let's start with Nathaniel.
Yeah. You know, we talk about how much we enjoyed WandaVision or The Falcon and Winter Soldier because it takes the time to establish characters that we didn't get enough time with in the main MCU films. And while I'd still prefer full movies to establish characters like Victor Stone or Barry Allen, this time around the movie did such a good job at working with the time that it had to actually make me care more for these characters, and that was missing in the original cut. I wanted more of them, which means, again, the concepts were there, the portrayals were good, but there just simply wasn't enough of them. And so the Snyder Cut resolves that. We get a movie that is more in line with Snyder's other films, tonally, visually, and overall just a more consistent experience. And I really didn't think I was going to enjoy the movie as much as I did. The Whedon Cut, I would have given a 3 out of 5. Because honestly, I didn't think it was right. But listen, I didn't think it was very bad. It was very fluffy. It was very rushed feeling, and you could see the cracks in the seams. The villain had zero motivation, and it really didn't make good use of its newest characters. But again, the Snyder Cut, as we discussed all of that, brings that all better, makes it all better, and brings the movie's rating up. And so for Zack Snyder's Justice League, I would definitely rate it 4 out of 5 mother boxes, as I feel like it could have done without the final chunk of fat at the end. I think those final last scenes are honestly no longer neat. As cool as they were to see, as cool as it was to see Martian Manhunter and Deathstroke and the Joker and all that stuff, honestly, I don't think it was needed, given the fact that this story probably won't continue. Yeah. So that kind of brought it down for me right at the end of the film. But yeah, 4 out of 5 mother boxes.
Just really quickly before I get into mine, I will touch on what you just said there, Nate. And I think while I agree that, when you're hitting 4 hours, maybe that last part wasn't necessary because it's not going anywhere, but we're already here. We're already remaking an entire movie just to see what this director's vision for it was supposed to be. Yeah. And so I'm okay with them including all that to really round out that entire vision from start to finish. But no, looking at the movie as a whole, I think I mentioned it at the top there, I'm having a really hard time just looking at it as a movie and not comparing it to the Joss Whedon version. But I'll do my best here. I think so much was done to improve the stories and the characters. You guys really liked the Zack Snyder signature sepia tone. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a bit washed out for me. It's a bit dreary for me. I think the one scene where it served a purpose and helped was that final battle. Instead of that glowing red ambiance that we had for that whole battle in the Whedon version, I liked that it wasn't that distracting background here. And even just like ancillary cuts like that meaningless family, with the bug spray in the Whedon version.
Yeah,
and
the Russian family.
And we're yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're like in the middle of this world-defining battle, and Superman and Flash just disappear to go save like 4 people while billions of lives are at stake here. Like, getting rid of that cheesy stuff really helped it. And like, I'll always, I think, prefer Marvel movies over this Zack Snyder DCU for the fun and the levity that it can bring while also being, serious and action-packed. I just don't think that sort of fun tone and campy jokes and stuff, they don't work in this universe. And so the fact that so much of that was taken out to give more, emotion to the characters, it just made the story feel more impactful and resonate a bit more. And so overall, I think that we really did get Zack Snyder's vision here, and we can see, sort of what he'd been working for over the previous 2 movies that he'd done. And we really did get to see a bigger picture of his overall goal for this series of movies that he wanted to make. And so I think it was a huge success. And I didn't just like it more than the Whedon version. I liked it. I thought it was a decent movie. That being said, I'm not going to give it too high of a score. I think if I were to rank Whedon's, I'd probably have given it a 2.4 out of 5. And so for this movie, again, not comparing it just on its own, I think it was a solid entry that made me want to see more movies should that be the case. And so I'm going to give it 3.2 mother boxes out of 5.
Nice.
All right.
Well, like I said in our high-level overview, I love the movie. I found it very enjoyable. Everything that was wrong with the original 2017 cut is more or less resolved in this film. The film's ability to offer more depth to the characters is very gratifying. To see and spend more time with specific moments and the power of editing, of how just, either taking away things or adding things, it really shows how it changes the whole scope of the story. And while it might be 4 hours long, it was fairly well paced. I thought it was great that they did do the sort of chapter breaks for it. Does make it far more digestible. And in true Snyder fashion, this was all of his aesthetics, from the color tone to the excessive amount of slow-mo, which seems to emphasize the length of the movie even more so, just because you're spending so much time in slow-mo. But also it's so much a signature of Zack Snyder, making small moments feel more momentous, feeling larger by just slowing down and focusing. It's ingrained in his aesthetic, and I think that this just fits well into that whole Snyder world of filmmaking. For Whedon's cut, I would give that hot pile of garbage a 0.5 out of 5.
Wow.
I like it, just absolute trash. This movie, though, with everything that I enjoyed about it, I still wouldn't give it as high, like a 4. I'd give this 3.6 out of 5 mother boxes. There's still some things that I think the things that hinder that score, as we've mentioned, is the ending, which it's nice to see where the ideas could have gone, but with now the revelation that we won't see that, or that won't come to fruition, I don't think it was very meaningful. That was actually a bulk of what they reshot, and it's like, why did you spend your time reshooting that if it's not really going to do anything? And because of that, the movie kind of feels like it starts and ends the DCU. And it's just unfortunate, because there were some pretty cool moments that I'd love to see how that alliance came to be, and we'll never know.
Like, again, Kevin, to your point originally that you made, like, it is nice to see those things, because obviously that's what he wanted to do. And, Justin, you're saying they weren't in the original. They actually went back and reshot those moments. They really didn't need to put them in here. But Zack Snyder, they could have still made that stuff and put it out, on on the anniversary of the Zack Snyder cut. Like, they could have, we could have had more of that sort of thing. So, like, I don't think it was necessary for it to be attached to this film, and I think, that's why it brings it down.
Yeah, I like that idea. You sort of release it afterwards, as sort of bonus content. And one thing about that, does the Martian Manhunter not seem like the most boring character ever? Like, that did not make me want to see more of his character. I'll say that much.
Awesome. Well, that wraps our review. Now, if you've seen the Snyder Cut and you have some of your own opinions on which was better, or who stood out the most to you, or if you just hated that 4:3 ratio, we would love to hear from you, and you can do so by reaching out to us at our email address, wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars is the minimum rating you can give there, so please rate, review, and let us know what you think. We are Geekcentric, and you can be too, which means you can also check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Geekcentric. Follow us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, and follow us on Instagram at We Are Geekcentric. Also, if you're a fan of that other comic book universe, we have our ongoing Watch Club series for The Falcon and Winter Soldier. The latest episode will be dropping this Monday. And for our gaming fans, you can join Nate over on Twitch. Nate, what's going on the channel? What do you got going on?
You know what? We're getting we're getting through Mario. I'm actually, believe it or not, Mario 64. Well, I haven't gotten all the stars. We do Super Mario Sundays, so Sunday night you can join in. Number one, Nintendo is taking away, we usually play a game called Mario 35. They're taking it away for some reason. I don't know why. It's a free game they gave away for the anniversary, and they're like, now we're taking it away. I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, this Sunday will be the last chance that you'll get to see that being played, potentially. But with Mario 60, right? I know. But with Mario 64, I'm about to roll credits. So even though I haven't collected everything, I am about to roll credits. I'm going to beat Bowser, throw him off the thing. I think that's how it ends. I honestly don't know because I've never beat it before. So come check that out. And then also, please check out my Instagram, which is nate.playsgames on Instagram, because that's the only way you're going to get announcements. And guys, I'm going to be doing some Pokemon unpacking streams. So I bought a crap ton of Pokemon cards. I've got an overhead camera. And not only that, guys, but you got to bring your A game when it comes to the Pokemon information, because we're going to be having a quiz and a giveaway on stream. So please definitely come check it out. Twitch.tv/NatePlaysGames. Again, that's Nate.playsgames on Instagram to see when that's all going down. It's probably going to be not too long from now, but we'll see when that rolls out. So please come check it out.
Head over to Twitch, say hi to Nate, and take a look at the crap load of Pokemon cards he has, along with all the other crap he has. No, I'm just joking. Well, that's it for us, Kev. Nate, thank you for joining me for today's heroic review. Until next week, as we say,
Love ya.
Stay home safe, guys.
peace.